listening to your brain on air. The program will begin shortly. Enjoy.
Antum tastamiعون إلى your brain on air. سيبدأ البرنامج بعد قليل. استمتعوا.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Your Brain on Air. I'm your host, Ollie Vogt Larson. And spring break, one of my favorite times of year, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen. It brings many things. You can clean out your house a little bit. I try to reorganize, maybe. You know what I mean? What do the Chinese call it? Why'd the intro just come back for a second? Shush, shush, shush. I have to mute the computer, otherwise it'll just interrupt me again. Ladies and gentlemen, is it the Chinese, they call it feng shui, I believe. It's the energy, the way that it all moves through your room or something like that. I try to make sure that the feng shui doesn't stay the same. You know what I mean? I like a different flow every now and then. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, besides cleaning out your house, finding old shit, around, drawers, all over the place, quite frankly, I think that one of the biggest things that spring break tends to bring is an overwhelming explosion in the rate of STDs. It is recently, a lot of news has been coming out of the Houston area in particular, and it's kind of been a microcosm of what may be happening all throughout the country. As you know, I'm just going to say it. It is a certain demographic of individuals. I'm not saying race. I'm saying age. It is like the less than 20-something up to the 35 crowd where they're just getting rowdy this time of year. They like to hang out on beaches. I understand. You want to drink beer. You want to chill. You want to hit the pen with your boys. You want to, whatever you kids do these days. What I'm trying to say is that Houston might be a sort of symbol for all of you people that are out there who are looking to have a good time this spring. Maybe look at the Houston area and see it as a warning sign to at least maybe consider, a little bit of, I'm not going to call it sanctimonium, but I'm going to call it a little bit of pride. A little bit of pride in yourself, quite frankly. I know pride is a sin. I know that it's not something that we should be engaging with or whatever the Christians like to say. But when I'm saying pride, I'm trying to say, care about yourself. You know what I mean? Consider that you only have this one body that has been bestowed on you by the universe or God, whatever you believe in, whatnot. Whatever it is, just by virtue of you being alive, you should realize that the universe has endowed you with the spirit, with a soul, enough so to where you should treasure this ability to live. You should treasure this body. You should treasure this chance at life. What I'm trying to get at here is that you need to treasure yourself. You need to treasure your life. That is because it's the only one that you're likely going to get unless you believe in reincarnation and all that jazz. I'm just here to say, whatever it is, you should consider the Houston area. Let's take a look at it with a bit of a microscope. You know what I mean? These are not 45-year-olds having like a little tailgating grill on the beach. They don't set up an umbrella and whatnot and hang out with their families. It is a bunch of people from that, like I said, that like just going to college to 35, maybe even older, that age demographic, heading to the beach, ready to sex each other up. It is like animals, premarital sex here, premarital sex there. These are not consummated, committed relationships. It is pagan-like. It is a display of depravity. It is a display of, let's just call it what it is. It is absolute, unencumbered human desire that, quite frankly, a lot of people, and most, I would argue that all human beings are capable of this if they just allow lust to pilot themselves. You know what I mean? Much like any other, the thing that your brain has in it, it can become a festering wound. You know what I mean? That if you allow it to pilot yourself, it'll ruin your life. Just like pride, just like greed, just like, the horking desire for anything in this world where it's just, it will eat you alive, much like it did Harvey Weinstein. You know what I mean? That's a prime example of someone whose face just reads like an orc. Just someone who is very, just like, I need more of anything. I need to eat. I need sex. I need this. I need to send in another assistant. That is the spirit of spring break, and not many people like to really acknowledge that, but that's just kind of the truth. I'm just going to be honest with you. Let's talk about how it's not really an oppression per se to say that it's a good idea to protect your virtue a little bit. I'm not calling the idea that your virginity is your virtue. I'm calling the idea that respecting yourself is the virtue here. Like avoiding premarital sex, not just chasing self-gratification, fuck the consequences, worship me. I am great, nature is great, and nature compels or impels me rather to do whatever I want, have sex with anybody, and it's something that most unvirtuous people will call you judgy for calling out, honestly. Not believing me about these STDs and STIs, guys, I want to talk to you about this Houston nurse who's going to give you the actual numbers, ladies and gentlemen. Play this woman.
Out over spring break and all y'all going to Houston, I'm going to tell y'all what the STD rate has been from 2025 to 2026 in case you decided to go out there and hunch. Yeah, this for you.
Yeah, this for you.
I just thought somebody was calling.
No one's calling you.
Okay, syphilis has surged all the way up to 79% in the year 2025 leading into 2026.
Syphilis has surged 79%. Syphilis, the disease that killed Al Capone, the one that literally it takes years to onset, so you don't know that you have it until it's too late. And it's like a pus disease and whatnot. It's bacterium, and it just kills you from the inside out. It's like, that is something that many people may have engaged with. Unfortunately, this is regrettable. This is horrific, guys. I'm not saying any of this to try to be judgy. I'm trying to say this, quite frankly, to protect people. This is a warning. This is an issue. We have a serious problem with the euphoria generation, as I like to call them, or the people that are around my age, where it's Gen Z. It's the, you know what I mean? It's the crowd where they watched Zendaya getting high, and they thought that hitting the cart and like hanging out with friends, having sex and going to school, like fucked up on alcohol, like they think that's cool. A lot of this generation, they grew up, I remember going to high school, it was only a few years ago, they were hitting carts in the bathroom, you know what I mean? I remember someone was smoking a joint in the male's locker room. I'm not lying to you. This is stuff that happens in real life, and it's unfortunate that this generation has been so exposed to it. I call it the euphoria generation because it was this specific, 2010s to 2020s era. The 2000s, excuse me, they had their own kind of feel. They were a little bit more 90s aligned, but I understand. They just have a distinct feel to them, and they all hate their parents. They all take pills because they're like, I want to numb the pain. The pain of living in a big house. The pain of having everything paid for in my life, the pain of being expected to what exactly? Have good grades? What are you talking about? And then it's just like, it's complainy, it's whine all the time, never actually contribute much to conversation. It's a systematic problem, and I'm warning this generation of people because they tend to be detached. They tend to be like, whatever, man, we're all gonna die anyways. Climate change, whatever. It's a deeply black-pilled generation, and I want to encourage a bit of hope-pilled, ladies and gentlemen. Hope-pilling is what I'm in on this show for, ladies and gentlemen. I am much like Conan O'Brien here. I am here to inject a little bit of optimism. I unlike him, I do enjoy cynicism here and there. I love a good bit of cynicism. I think it keeps you honest, it keeps you real, and it keeps you safe. But I want to inject a little bit of optimism into the generation for themselves, because this is a very self-centered generation. The Gen Z, they are very much like the parent generation of the Gen X's and millennials. They're like the boomers. They want money. They want a house at the end of their lives. They've been taught to desire Gucci, Louis, and Versace by Lil Pump, Lil Tay, all of these figures they grew up watching when they were kids. So they're just kind of a soulless, materialistic generation that loves gambling. Gambling is huge in this generation. Drinking, carts, all of this shit. Psychedelics, they're on the big rise with this generation. They're getting huge. What I'm trying to say is I'm here to hope pill this generation. They're too negative. They're too doomer. When I say you should have a bit of virtue, I'm not saying it because I'm saying you should do it for Christ. I'm saying you should do it for yourself. I'm appealing to their selfish notions in themselves. I'm appealing to that side of the Zoomer that really just wants to service themselves at the end of the day. I'm saying you can do that by protecting your virtue and not getting syphilis and pushing the 79% rate up to an 80.
HIV has surged an increase in 17%. Gonorrhea.
HIV, 17%. And then she's going to give us gonorrhea and chlamydia.
Chlamydia has surged 32%.
32%.
And the ages are from 15 to 24 years old. All the
15 to 24 years old. That, I'm assuming, is mostly made up of the, 18 to 24, 25 crowd. I don't assume that this is a thing that's mostly affecting teenagers, literally. Unless, like I said, this is a high school, like Euphoria, you know what I mean? Where kids are just doing whatever the fuck they want.
So they're saying, like, the main sources of these STDs are coming from Montrose, Downtown, OST, South Union area. The demographic is black people, Hispanics, whites, ranging from the ages 15 to 35.
It's everybody.
Yeah, so if you went to Houston for spring break, I hope you didn't hunch nobody out there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here's another woman talking about it. She's a little bit more unnerving. I'm going to be honest with you. Her blue eyes. Something about blue-eyed people, sometimes if they have a certain type of blue eye, it's not all types of blue eyes. Some people, they have very soulful blue eyes. This one, it's very much the pin pupil blue-eyed. And that freaks me out because it looks like they're just looking through you.
Roughly 3 million people went out to Houston for spring break. A bunch of those people had unprotected sex.
Yeah.
A bunch of those people contracted HIV, chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis. Syphilis rates are up 79%. A bunch of those people will go home thinking that they got out safe. They're clean. They will think that for months or even years. They won't get tested thinking that they have nothing. They'll have 2, 3, 9 or 10 partners. And those people will have 2, 3, 9 or 10 partners. And those people will go on to have 2, 3, 9 or 10 partners. Suddenly there's hundreds of thousands of people with HIV, syphilis, chlamydia, gonorrhea. America is about to experience a full-blown STD epidemic. You deserve...
How about you guys don't sleep around? I think that's it. Not you guys, the listener, because I know that you're a virtuous individual. You, the listener. I'm saying for the people who might hear this and not be like you, the listener, who is already awake and aware. That's why I love you, and that's why you're a regular. That's why you're going to become a regular, hopefully. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go.
To have fun, you deserve to explore the field, you deserve to explore...
Okay, she's going to go into more of like a, you deserve this, you deserve to explore your desires, you deserve, no matter what your gender, and I'm like, okay, she's starting to go into angles of like encouraging the sexual freedom, but she's going to go in an angle of like, you need to protect yourself. I'm saying the sexual freedom thing is a bad idea. I'm saying the polyamory is a bad idea. I'm saying not having sex within the boundaries of a, loving, healthy relationship is a bad idea. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying this because I'm a virtuous, a Catholic over here trying to preach my values. What I'm trying to say is that via every piece of evidence that I have seen, via every single metric that I have viewed in my personal anecdotal life and in the research, it is overwhelmingly shown that people who are loving each other in a committed relationship, monogamous relationship, see the highest rates of success out of any demographic, regardless of race, regardless of age, regardless of gender. We're not regardless of what's it called? I'm trying to not regardless of time and age, all that kind of junk. I could throw on more statistics, but what I'm trying to say is that monogamy wins every single time. Monogamy wins, and a loving, committed relationship wins every single time. I'm not trying to say this to be a prude, to not encourage people to be free or to do whatever they'd like to themselves. What I'm trying to say is you have value beyond what you may understand that you do. And she's going to explain it in a way that I don't know. Let's just hear it rest.
Yourself and your desires, but the more active you are, the more responsible you are.
Okay, yeah.
You have to go get tested.
Yes.
You have to have that awkward my chart conversation, and you have to verify that it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Because now people are editing their my charts.
That's crazy.
This past week, every time you scratch that itch, you are running the risk of being the next person with AIDS. If your partner went to Houston this past week, go get tested. If you plan on hooking up with someone in the upcoming weeks, ask for their my chart.
Do not hook up with anybody. Hooking up is a horrible idea and not of something that's good for you or the other person. it devalues sex in both of your lives, and you both walk off worse. I think that's literally why they call it a walk of shame. I'm not even in the casual sex community, and I understand that is what there's no pride around this except for in the very niche communities. This is like I feel like everything I'm saying is true. I feel like everything I'm saying makes total and complete sense to me.
It goes for everyone, every gender, male or female. We are all human, and we all need to be taking care of the one body that the universe gave us.
There you go.
Roughly 3 million people went up.
Blah, 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 blah. She's going to repeat herself. I'm not going to let her steal any more of my airtime, ladies and gentlemen. I think we should actually hop into our first story of the day. It's actually a pretty decent one. I'm proud of it. I'm saying this to wrap up what we're gonna say here. Just, ladies and gentlemen, get tested. Wait until you find someone you love. Make sex sanctimonious again. I'm using the word sanctimonious because you have to show that you are of superior virtue to those who would choose such horrible decisions. So, there's nothing wrong with being sanctimonious. And people who say that, oh, you're being so sanctimonious, they're people who often sit in the dirt and live in filth and live in sin. And I'm not saying sin, like I said, because I'm a crazy Christian or whatever. I'm saying sin because those are recognizable. That is a recognizable term that we all know to mean criminal and horrible and deeply immoral behavior. That is what we both understand it to mean, and I'm calling that behavior immoral. I'm calling it bad for you. I'm calling it bad for the other people. I'm saying that it's just not a good idea either way. Make sex sanctimonious again. Massa is the campaign I'm starting. MSSA. Make sex sanctimonious again. How is the sexual freedom revolution in general helping us in any meaningful way? Single motherhood rates are up. Sexually transmitted disease rates are up. Guys, maybe just because we can have sex with anybody, that doesn't mean that we should. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's just not a great idea, regardless of your sex, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man. Gatekeeping, as many people like to call it, your genitals is the technique. It makes you cherishable. You know what I mean? If you abandon the gate and you let any knight or, any maiden into your kingdom, it isn't even a kingdom at that point. It's a royal suites inn. Let's lock up our situations, ladies and gentlemen. Lock them up. I should teach sex ed. I feel like I would make the teen pregnancy rate 0%. Honestly, if they got me on a national stage and I was like one of those people in the vintage era. You remember the 90s when it was like, if you have sex, you will die. You will die tomorrow because your genitals will rot your heart from the inside out. I feel like that would be a great style of teaching that we need to bring back a little bit. Abstinence only. Is that what they used to call it? Is that I'm pretty sure. Abstinence only. Yes, exactly. I remember this. This was the thing that they had gotten rid of by the point that I was in school. Minnesota was a lot more liberal with the way that they taught sex ed. They were a lot more like, this is the ejaculant, this is the they brought up a chart and whatnot of both of the genitals, and then they showed you one that was flaccid and one that was erect, and then one that was shooting the liquid out, and then they were like, the whole classroom erupted into laughter when that slide came up. But by the way, I'm sorry, you cannot stop people from being people. Speaking of people being people, Iran, they are up to it once again, trying to conduct that economic warfare style on us, as a former DHS official is claiming. Ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into our first story and let's go. Iran is pledging to retaliate as the death toll on both sides of the war is rising, and a former high-ranking official from the Department of Homeland Security is sounding the alarm today, warning that Iran has shifted its strategy toward a full-scale campaign of, quote, economic warfare against the United States. Speaking on the heels of the recent cyber attack on the Michigan-based medical giant Stryker, with a Y, because they want to be cool, the official noted that Tehran is moving away from purely military targets to focus on soft economic underpinnings. By leveraging state-aligned hacking groups like Handala, Iran is reportedly aiming to trigger widespread domestic anxiety and financial instability. specifically by targeting the supply chains and digital infrastructure that American hospitals and businesses rely on every day. This warning coincides with a period of high alert on the West Coast following the FBI's recent bulletin regarding the potential unverified plot to launch drone strikes from vessels off the California coast. I'd actually like to remind everybody who bought the U.S. Bank Tower. Oh my goodness. Larry Silverstein purchased it in July 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not aware of Larry Silverstein, he is the same gentleman who purchased the World Trade Center. When did Larry Silverstein purchase? There we go. He finalized a 99-year lease to ensure the coverage of the World Trade Center on July 24th, 2001, just 7 weeks before the 9/11 attacks. He secured a policy worth $3.55 billion, later leading to a legal dispute where he sought double the payment, arguing that the attacks were two separate events. Larry Silverstein and his consortium received approximately $4.55 billion in insurance payouts following the 9/11 destruction of the World Trade Center, which he had leased for $3.2 billion. So he turned a profit still. That's about $1 billion profit. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is very interesting that Silverstein Properties, a New York-based firm, a real estate developer, Larry Silverstein, a person who generally works on the East Coast, would purchase the U.S. Bank Tower, what was formerly the tallest building in Los Angeles, until that stupid Welshire Grand Center stole it for no good reason, because it's not actually true. The U.S. Bank Tower has higher habitable floors, and the spire shouldn't technically count towards its height. Silverstein Properties, why would they invest in this? The deal was originally announced in July 2020, the firm buying the 73-story tower from Singapore-based OUE Ltd for approximately $430 million at a 34% discount from the previous valuation. He is estimated to probably make another payout if things were to go poorly at the U.S. Bank Tower, ladies and gentlemen. I think that these drone strikes that we're hearing about on the California coast, I think I know their target that they're probably going to be going for, which is exactly what I don't want to happen. If the U.S. Bank Tower is hit, I think that it would be a disaster, because it would be getting rid of the actual crowning jewel of Los Angeles. That building is the tallest building in GTA 5. It is the tallest building in proper Los Angeles, because the spire on the Welshire Grand Center shouldn't count. It would be a disaster to not only my life, because in all honesty, I would just suck to see the skyline be any different if I ever were to visit Los Angeles. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm worried for Californians. I'm worried about them having a 9/11, ladies and gentlemen. If this is prophecy, and I predicted that Larry Silverstein was okay with downing two of the most iconic skyscraper structures. Never mind 3 actually, because Twin Towers, and actually 4 because of the what's it called, the World Trade Center 7. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever. You understand my point. I'm worried that I'm predicting something that might happen in the future based on these supposed drone strike things about the California coast. It's Silverstein, if he makes a profit off of this, let's just keep our eyes on him. While the White House has moved to downplay the immediate threat, with Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stating that there is no such immediate danger, the former DHS officials are arguing that the threat itself is money being the weapon, by forcing the U.S. to ramp up costly domestic security measures and disrupting the 11 billion weekly flow of goods through major ports like Los Angeles, Long Beach. Iran is attempting to bleed the American economy while the kinetic war continues in the Middle East. The impact is already being felt at the gas pump, in the boardrooms of major tech firms. Also, with the Strait of Hormuz effectively closed and global oil prices hovering near the $135 a barrel marker, the economic warfare strategy appears to be magnifying the pressure on top of the Trump administration to find a path forward to victory. Analysts are warning that the conflict is nearing its 3rd week, and the goal of the new regime in Tehran is no longer regional survival, but long-term war of attritions designed to test the patience of the American taxpayers and the resilience of the global financial system. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Let's hear a little bit more from WCCO News, CBS, Minnesota.
Iran has pledged to retaliate as the death toll on both sides of the war is rising. Natalie Brand has the latest.
President Trump went to Dover Air Force Base Wednesday for the dignified transfer of 6 U.S. service members killed when their KC-135 tanker crashed as part of Operation Epic Fury.
Oy.
Earlier in Tehran, mourners held a funeral procession for Iran's security chief, Ali Larijani, and the siege commander killed in Israeli strikes Tuesday. Israel also announced it had killed Iran's intelligence chief in a new round of strikes.
The regime in Iran appears to be intact but largely degraded due to attacks on its leadership and military capabilities.
You can't kill Ali.
For the first time, forces hit Iranian oil production facilities, including the world's biggest natural gas field. Iran says oil facilities in nearby Gulf countries are now fair game for retaliatory strikes.
The
U.S. focused its latest round of military strikes on targets along the Strait of Hormuz, as Iran continues its blockade of the waterway, critical to the shipment of around 20% of the world's oil. U.S. Central Command said the U.S. had dropped multiple 5,000-pound bunker-busting bombs on hardened Iranian missile sites along the strait. President Trump has criticized U.S. allies for not stepping up to help open the strait.
We all agree, of course, that strait has to open up again. And what I know is that allies are working together, discussing how to do that.
CBS News has learned President Trump is still considering whether to send American forces into Iran to seize the country's nuclear material. More than 2,000 Marines aboard the USS Tripoli are now sailing to the Middle East. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House. Thank you, Natalie Brand. Yeah, if you live in LA, I'm not going to tell you to be nervous, because I normally warn people to be nervous, or on their toes at the very least. You know, see something, say something. I'm still encouraging that, but I'm saying, like, live your lives. You know what I mean? They can only try to make us live in fear. We don't know as to whether or not they'll ever do anything, and living in fear is exactly what they would want. So I encourage peace of mind, quite frankly. That is all that I can encourage. But ladies and gentlemen, what I think I will encourage is for us to move on to our second story, because it is surrounding a serious issue regarding the TikToks, ladies and gentlemen. It's something that your kids might be on. It's something that, I don't know, if you have a niece or nephew, if you're a young jit yourself, you probably have this. If you're within that 25 to 35 age range of the people that we were talking about who get STDs all the time, you might be on TikTok as well. Let's talk about PingTok. What is PingTok, and why are people filming their drug habits, and especially teenagers? Let's cover it. Go. Under the hashtag PingTok, ladies and gentlemen, teenagers are filming their drug habits. In the comment section, many people are talking about it, and they're generating millions of views. Is TikTok fueling a dangerous trend, or also becoming a lifeline for prevention and recovery? What are we even talking about? A disturbing digital subculture has taken root on TikTok. This app, ladies and gentlemen, maybe the ban would have been a good idea. Under the hashtag PingTok, PingTok, where millions of viewers are tuning in, to watch teenagers and young adults film themselves while high on various substances. These, quote, trip reports, which can range from a misuse of a household product to the consumption of synthetic drugs, often function as a voyeuristic getaway for young and impressionable audiences. Critics and law enforcement warn that the platform's comment sections are increasingly being used as unregulated digital marketplaces where dealers can hide coded language and emojis to connect with potential buyers, bypassing traditional moderation filters. Very interesting. Very YouTube in the early days. Remember the Elsa and Spider-Man era before they really cracked down, and then you couldn't comment on like videos that were like for kids or anything like that? It got really, really, really serious, and I think that TikTok might be heading that direction. The trend has sparked an intense debate over the role of social media in the modern drug crisis. While TikTok's community guidelines strictly prohibit the promotion of illegal substances, the sheer volume of the, quote, underground content often disguised with intentional misspellings or niche hashtags, makes total enforcement of their policies a game of digital whack-a-mole. Medical experts are pointing to the Benadryl challenge. That's an awful idea. Don't even be taking Benadryl because it can increase your risk of dementia tenfold or whatever. Even if you just take it limited amounts, Benadryl is awful for you. It's horrible for your mind. And people will see the Hat Man on it. It's not worth it. It's not a worthy high. You wake up feeling awful. Medical experts are pointing to the Benadryl challenge and galaxy gas trends. Oh, I saw a guy crash his car on galaxy gas. I've seen quite a few of those on Instagram, and you know what? There's quite a few in real life. They happen on street corners, quite frankly. You'll see somebody. I remember there was a tweak living in across the street from my building at one point when this was about it's still about a year ago. And I was just looking out my window and I see this woman. She had like what looks like one of those containers for, I don't know, it's like a spritz bottle of some variety. Maybe it could be like a whipped cream top or something, but it looked like she took the top, like the actual, you know, the part where it's like a gun where you spritz things. It looks like she stripped that part off and it was just the ping part that goes up into the actual nozzle. And she was just pressing down on it. And she'd smell it and like put it right in her nose. And I would think that it would be so cold that it would like frostbite the inside of her nose. But apparently this woman, she just liked doing this. And I would watch this woman. It was almost a daily habit for her. She would come out of her house and she would hug every single tree on the street. It was a weird habit of hers. She would come out of her apartment. She would have the actual container just walking around with her. And she'd get a nice long drag of it, and then she'd hold it for a minute. You'd see her lungs struggling to hold it in because, I don't know, maybe she has emphysema or something, but she would go and walk to each of the trees, and she would hug them. And it was one of the weirdest things. It's something I'll never forget, living in the city, life in the city, you know what I mean? You got to expect those sorts of things. But what I'm trying to say is galaxy gas and Benadryl. If your kid ever asks you to get him galaxy gas, don't be the naive parent that just goes, maybe this is for like dyeing shirts. The trends are showing evidence of how viral clout can turn into life-threatening behaviors, into a form of social currency for many parents and educators. PingTok represents a dangerous evolution of peer pressure, where likes and shares provide an immediate dopamine hit that masks a very real risk of overdose and potential neurological damage. However, a parallel movement known as recovery talk is emerging as a potent counterforce. Proponents argue that the same algorithms that spread harmful trends are also creating powerful lifelines to those struggling with addiction, using hashtags like soberlution. What? Soberlution? That sounds like a lube. And hashtag we do recover. Creators are sharing raw, unfiltered stories of their journeys. Like that one guy who's always like, I would get coke and I would be up for 5 fucking days. I'd call hookers. And it's like this guy who's bald with glasses. He looks like he works on Pawn Stars or something. And he's like, it's like Recovery Jake or something like that. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But he is really, really funny. He's being totally sincere. But he's one of the funniest people in the world. For a generation that primarily communicates through short-form video. I hear a siren outside my building. That's not great. For a generation that primarily communicates through short-form video, these digital support groups provide a level of accessibility and community and that traditional in-person recovery programs sometimes lack. God, that is just loud. I don't know what that is. I think it's a fire department. Let's get a little bit from news itself about PingTok.
Dilated pupils, high on camera, often alone. On TikTok, more and more videos show teenagers filming their drug highs. Their videos reach millions with only one hashtag, PingTok.
Seit ich über Sucht auf TikTok aufkläre, kriege ich tatsächlich sehr viele Nachrichten. Das ist irgendwie erschreckend, weil das oft auch wirklich...
She's speaking German or some shit.
TikTok is a trend that romanticizes drug use, from MDMA and cocaine to heroin, sometimes with life-threatening consequences. But how could it get this far? At first glance, TikTok has very strict community guidelines. Showing or promoting drugs is banned. We asked TikTok what the platform is doing to address the spread of this content. TikTok said, safety and well-being are a top priority for us. More than 99% of content that violates these rules is removed before it is reported. But PingTok shows how easily these rules can be bypassed. Users speak in codes. They use sounds, emojis.
Tell
words.
Molly I miss her. there, cornball.
Ping, for example, is slang for being on drugs. Even though this hashtag has now been blocked by TikTok, users have found ways to get around this. But is this actually new? After all, teenagers have always experimented with drugs. What is new, however, is the visibility. In the past,
the ability to share it.
The curtains. Today, they turn on the camera.
Yeah.
Sarah knows this world too well. Today, the 26-year-old talks openly about her addiction and withdrawal. She became addicted to drugs at 15. She started with MDMA and then moved on to other drugs, such as heroin or morphine. Many of her followers today do the same, she says, and they are even younger.
Many parents have no idea what their kids are doing online. And honestly, I find that really frightening.
TikTok isn't just a stage, it's also becoming a marketplace for drugs.
You can connect in the comments to buy drugs. You don't even have to leave your house. You can get everything you want alone in your room. That's what makes PingTok so dangerous.
Using drugs alone is one of the biggest risk factors for overdoses. And data from the US shows more than 69% of fatal overdoses happen at home, often because no one else is there. In Germany, drug-related deaths have nearly doubled in the past 10 years. Among people under 30, deaths rose by 14% last year. There is no proven direct link between PingTok and fatal overdoses. Still, experts warn that isolation and exposure to drug-related content on social media make drug use more dangerous. And some governments are reacting to protect teenagers from harmful content on social media. Australia, for example, has banned social media for under 16s.
I have no issue with this because it doesn't affect me anymore.
The UK, France, and Denmark are debating similar steps. The EU is also reviewing whether platforms do enough to protect minors. But do bans alone really solve the problem?
What I can say through my research is that there are whole sides that often get left out of the conversation when we talk about substance use and social media, which are the populations that are actually using it for support, for things that are not glorification.
Researcher Leila Bazuba analyzed hundreds of videos related to substance use on TikTok. And what's striking here, more than half of the videos that she studied focused on recovery, harm reduction, and education. She found that for many users, TikTok isn't about partying, it's a lifeline.
The place that they can go is social media, and they don't want to cut them off, cut this lifeline off, while trying to also really strictly moderate the kind of content that's on there at the same time. If these platforms wanted to do anything that impacted this specific community on their platform, they need to involve them.
That's exactly what Sarah is trying to do. Today, she uses TikTok not to glorify drugs, but to warn others about what addiction really costs.
Drug authorities and social workers have to accept that most of this now happens online. It is good that they're going to the streets and go to schools, but they also need to pay attention to the digital space because many of the teenagers are underage.
How should platforms deal with drug trends? Stricter takedowns or more space for education and prevention?
There's no good way to handle that, quite frankly. That's a messy one. We don't know how much freedom we want to give our kids, you know what I mean? The battle between the two subcultures is intensifying. The pressure is mounting on tech companies to do more to delete harmful videos. Many advocates are calling for interventions by design where searches for hashtags like PingTok trigger mandatory pop-ups for crisis hotlines and recovery resources. Whether TikTok remains a primary engine for the drug experimentation or transforms into a global tool for prevention may depend on its ability to amplify voices of recovery over the spectacle of the high. For now, the FYP remains a high-stakes lottery between a single swipe leading a younger user toward a dangerous trip or a path to healing. It's a dangerous time to just be on social media if you're a youngin'. Don't be. That's my best recommendation. Kids don't need phones. You know what I mean? Don't get them anytime soon. You can start them off later in life. I know it might make them a little bit weird, according to some of their friends, but their friends are going to have mental disorders later in their lives because of the early exposure to the phone. Just honesty, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about something that's a little more light, shouldn't we? The rapid fire section of today's headlines. Why don't we, ladies and gentlemen? A lot of stories that are happening in the news that you got to keep your eye on that we don't have enough time to dedicate, 3 to 4 paragraphs to. So we're just going to jump right into it. USPS could run out of cash and stop delivering mail as early as next year. The Postmaster General says that the U.S. Postal Service says the agency is months away from running out of money and may have to stop delivering mail next year if Congress does not help stabilize the agency. The Postal Service relies entirely on stamps and service fees, not tax dollars, to deliver the mail and packages. They say 6 days a week to every address in the country, but many people, businesses, are sending a lot less mail in the past few decades. So the Postmaster General David Steiner says USPS, could be out of cash and for paying its workers as soon as this October, but says that it could be delayed until February 2027 if USPS holds off on paying more of its obligations.
Months away from running out of money. He says it may have to stop delivering mail next year. NPR's Hansi Lo Wang reports the Postmaster General is asking Congress to help stabilize the self-funded agency.
The Postal Service relies on stamps and service fees, not tax dollars, to deliver mail and packages 6 days a week to every address in the country. But people and businesses are sending a lot less mail than in past decades. Now, Postmaster General David Steiner says USPS could be out of cash for paying its workers as soon as this October.
Damn.
But says that could be delayed until February 2027 if it holds off on paying more of its obligations.
Man, I feel bad for stealing stamps now.
You want the same number of delivery days and post offices? We can do that. But someone has to pay for it. If you want to have a discussion about reducing services, we can do that too. But there's one thing we can't do, and that is the status quo.
Steiner says Congress should change laws to let the Postal Service borrow more money and reform how it pays for retirement benefits. Hansi Lo Wang, NPR News.
I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News.
NPR News. Oh my goodness, how fun. Ladies and gentlemen, today we also got a retired U.S. Air Force launch officer he's making a claim that UFOs have disabled multiple nuclear missiles when they appeared around the Montana base where he was stationed decades ago. What are we even talking about, guys? I mean, I feel like the UFO stuff is coming out soon, right? They're going to declassify it because it'll be another distraction from the Ball Epstein related situation. I mean, that sort of situation died ever since a little bit. It's been out of the mainstream situation ever since maybe Hillary Clinton testified. There hasn't been many people talking about the revelations around McDonald's. There hasn't been many people talking about, the photos when it comes to Lady Gaga and that weird pool of blood with the woman sitting in it being definitely real. That it's not like the charcuterie board that looks like Amy Winehouse at Neil Patrick Harris's party. It looks like a real woman. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, the UFO situation is going to be a lot more talked about in this year because we need something to distract from the Epstein files. We need something to talk about besides that because it's kind of a dead meme at this point.
Aliens for peace. A retired U.S. Air Force launch officer claims that decades ago, UFOs disabled multiple nuclear missiles at the Montana base where he was stationed. Wait, what? 85-year-old Robert Salas says that he witnessed a mysterious force that paralyzed the military's ability to control Minuteman I intercontinental ballistic missiles at the Mamtram Air Force Base way back in 1967. Salas's job was to launch and monitor nuclear missiles if given the order to do so during the Cold War, which, what a gig. He says he was at the controls on March 24th, 1967, when panicked guards called about an unidentified aircraft in the area. A few minutes later, a guard reported a red glow above the front gate, and that's when Salas glanced over at the status lights, the ones that showed whether or not the 10 missiles he was in charge of were able to be launched if needed.
And then all of a sudden we get a large horn go off, and we know what that means. It means that there's an issue with one of the missiles. So we look at the board, and sure enough, one of them went from green to red. And then very quickly thereafter, bing, 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 all 10 of them went down. They all went red.
Now, Salas says he sent a guard over to the missile silos, and the guard reported lights hovering above them. After the incident, a full investigation was unable to find the cause for this bizarre turn of events. But Salas says he is convinced the culprit is, quote, another civilization.
That is a curious poll. Let's have another story from the cosmos. NASA, actually, yeah, it's not from the cosmos. It's just related to NASA. Is out with a dire warning about San Francisco, as I've talked about recently. The Sodom and Gomorrah situation going on in San Fran. The city is sinking at a rate so fast that it could put human lives at risk. This is a megamind level disaster. This is like the end of a movie. Let's take a look at this.
NASA is out with a dire warning about San Francisco right now. The city is sinking at a rate so fast it could put human life at risk. Scientists used satellite data to study vertical land motion from 2015 to 2023, and findings revealed that regional studies substantially underestimate sea level rise. NASA projects more than double the expected rise by year 2050. Experts say environmental changes and frequent extreme weather could increase that even more. Very concerning. I looked at the study, and it's not only San Francisco, but also for Los Angeles.
Yeah, a lot of people close to the water, especially around the Bay shoreline, watching this very closely. We have a lot of smart people trying to work on this for decades to solve this problem. So it's interesting to see what NASA found just recently.
Right.
Yeah.
We're already seeing some of that extreme weather even now.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the heat.
I mean, it's all about the heat. I love the way he just interrupts her. Like, how rude, how insubordinate, and just absolutely kick him off the show. Denmark-U.S. tensions over Greenland are turning alarming. The stunning geopolitical development that Denmark has reportedly prepared for a possible U.S. military move on Greenland after renewed interest from Donald Trump. Danish officials even discussed sabotaging infrastructure to prevent the U.S. from landing, signaling one of the most serious NATO tensions in decades. In case you're wondering, European politics are also kind of reshaping around the issue. Greenland has issued a kind of reshaping era for the domestic politics in Denmark. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has gained political momentum by strongly opposing the U.S. Pressure, and he's turning the crisis into a national sovereignty issue ahead of the elections. Let's cover this story. The veteran... We talked about this gentleman, the bald gentleman who busted up his arm, I would say for no good reason, unfortunately. Because it wasn't a public hearing. We were not there for public comment. It was the guy who was like, no one wants to fight for Israel. And here it turns out he's an absolute jihadi. He has, he walks around with his Palestinian wife wearing a keffiyeh and whatnot, wears the terrorist uniform. And it's like, well, listen, just because I am with you on the no one wants to fight for Israel doesn't mean that I'm on the full free Palestine from the river to the sea bullshit. Like you can't get me with that. I understand that people were calling him like a hero or something like that, but whatever. He made a good point. No one wants to fight for Israel, but man, when you look into his background, it's a little unnerving. Veteran is facing federal charges for a Iran war protest that left his arm broken. He got busted up, but he shouldn't have even been doing what he was doing. Let's look at this story coming out of the Associated Press.
After going through this very, very difficult last 2.5 years of watching innocents die, and hearing the generals ignore all of that and just go on as if America has done no wrong and has not laid out the red carpet for Israel to commit a genocide, I had heard enough, and with the Marine Common Act coming up next, I thought it was my time to speak.
Palestine will be from the river to the sea. See, he's a nut.
Mended my 2 bones, my ulna and radius, back together with some plates and screws. I wore my dress uniform to illustrate how a combat veteran is protesting this war, and I would think it would mean more from coming from a combat veteran. I've received so many amazing letters, and I appreciate all of them. And I've definitely got a couple haters, a bunch of uniform nerds that think I was out of regulations. And
you were out of regulations. Oh my god, I love that he goes, oh, a bunch of uniform nerds, and it's like, wow, you sound deeply respectful to your own military, you fucking dork. Ryan McGinnis, what is his name? Brian McGinnis. God, you have a forgettable name and a forgettable face. You are a loser who has those, what are those trees in your backyard? Those pink-leaved trees? I knew that you were. You're probably hiding the Japanese in your basement.
I've disgraced the Marine Corps, but that's life.
That's life.
Listen, once a Marine, always a Marine. That's
For sure.
rhetoric that Marines say. Marines have the biggest chip on their shoulder. Marines are the best. They're the first to fight. All this and that. Trump, he's the commander-in-chief officially. But what's more important is right. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and Trump's wrong.
You have some agreeable points, my guy, but you are just... Overall, you seem deeply unraveled, just disheveled. Quite frankly, you're unnerving, and I don't think that you have any chance of... Weren't you going to run for something? I think I'm good. I don't want to promote that. Murder plot, as we've already covered. These were the two girls that were giggling in the back seat over trying to kill their friend. They had a plot, and then some bitch snitched. The murder plot sought to resurrect a Sandy Hook shooter in Central Florida high school, the records are showing.
News 6 tonight, we are seeing two teens accused of making plans to kill one of their classmates, laughing in the back of a patrol car after their arrest. And
I still stand for the fact that they're just young girls kind of goofing around. So what? Your friend, you plan to kill your friend so that you could resurrect Adam Lanza. Who gives a shit?
Investigators say the girls brought supplies and a knife to Lake Brantley High and were caught the morning of that planned attack.
Damn.
Your Seminole County community correspondent Catherine Silver has been following this story since the very beginning. And Catherine,
see, they were caught. They didn't even do anything. So what else do you want?
This video is another disturbing moment in this case.
Absolutely, these girls are just 14 and 15 years old and facing capital felonies. Detectives say they planned to kill a boy who reportedly looked like the Sandy Hook school shooter. Investigators say one of them believed if she killed her classmate, she would have a blood bond that would resurrect the now deceased Sandy Hook shooter from the dead. This is the first time that we're seeing and hearing from both girls.
Oh, yeah.
Cameras captured the moment right after Isabel Valdez and Lois Lippert's arrest in January. This is video we're seeing publicly for the first time. Wednesday morning, it will be shown in court. Prosecutors plan on arguing it's one of the reasons why both girls should stay behind bars.
Nah.
This is a motion filed ahead of the pretrial detention hearing that says that patrol car recorded everything, how the 14 and 15-year-old were discussing how much prison time they might receive, how they plan to sharpen the knife they were going to use in the attack, and what their parents might think.
My mom's going to be yelling at me to the phone. What are you doing? Why are you trying to kill him?
Detectives say that Valdez
why'd you try to kill that fucking
for
kid?
A classmate in the bathroom, stab him or cut his throat, and then leave flowers and smoke a cigarette after the killing was complete.
Well, how romantic.
The plan was foiled by an anonymous tip that gave law enforcement the chance to intervene.
He fucking snitched.
Fucking
I should have
snitched.
told him, because he was like, oh, can you please tell me I can't sleep tonight? You!
Video shows the pair joking during their car ride together.
They're kind of funny.
Talking about how they would look for their mugshots and how they were supposed to spread their story around the true crime community.
Yeah. They're smart. Trying to look good for your mugshot?
Am I gonna get a mugshot? What, we're going to jail? What are you doing? Dude, I was gonna do my makeup this morning for the mugshot, but I couldn't find anything. I'm glad I don't actually look too bad today. I look horrible.
Later, Valdez can be heard saying she thought she would be going to a psych ward.
Dude, I thought I was gonna get sent to the psych ward. That's why I was so excited about everything. I think I would be so jolly if I was going to jail.
Another piece of evidence we're learning about tonight is a conversation between the two girls on Discord. Prosecutors say they shared messages there saying things like, quote, "It's going to be over by tomorrow," and "I hugged my parents extra tight today. I kind of feel bad for what's coming." Prosecutors
How
also
ominous.
plan on bringing that up tomorrow at tomorrow morning's hearing.
Tomorrow-
Lawyers representing teens have also filed motions arguing that their clients are entitled to a bond. We'll let you know what a judge decides.
Let me know what a judge decides, ladies and gentlemen. I think we have enough time for maybe one or two stories. Yeah, we'll cover one more headline. The NASA has, God, a lot of things from NASA. A massive boom was heard over Ohio and Kentucky. It was caused by an exploding meteor.
Here in the U.S. tonight into this incredible sight, seen in several states, a 7-ton meteor shooting across the sky. The sonic boom heard over multiple states. The meteor 6 feet in diameter, the ground shaking. Here's Rhiannon Alley tonight.
Tonight, NASA says this bright red fireball streaking through the sky, moving at 40,000 miles per hour and seen from at least 10 states, is a rare daylight meteor crashing into Earth.
What the was that?
The asteroid bursting through the Earth's atmosphere, sending loud sonic booms, rattling homes from Ohio to Kentucky. The blast so
I'm guessing people thought that it was war.
powerful it shook the ground. The rumbling registering on a seismograph.
It was just like a boom, like that.
Yeah, I forget. This was heard over Ohio and Kentucky. So you got some of the smartest, you got some of the biggest scholars hearing this thing. This is really if Aristotle had witnessed the oncoming of a meteor shower. You know what I mean? It was just you heard a boom! You get the real intelligence factor from the native residents.
Registering on a seismograph.
It was just like a boom, like that.
The meteor seen just
like
before
that.
9 a.m. for barely 5 seconds, traveling more than 34 miles in the upper atmosphere before breaking apart above Medina, Ohio, and seen across the Northeast.
Anybody see or hear what blew up? Definitely too big for fireworks. We felt the shockwave. We're not sure what it is, but it was big.
NASA says the meteor, nearly 6 feet in diameter, weighing roughly 7 tons, lit up the sky. It was even spotted by a NOAA satellite in space, unleashing the same amount of energy as 250 tons of TNT.
This thing just broke apart violently, scattered fragments everywhere, and this explosion generated a shock wave or a pressure wave that traveled to the ground.
Boom.
And that's the explosions people saw.
Aisha Jones lives in Maple Heights outside Cleveland and had just put her small children down for a nap when she says her house shook.
I immediately thought that somebody ran into my house or something big had hit the house.
David, NASA says what makes this so uncommon is that it went over a populated area. And while 40,000 miles per hour is really fast for a human, it's actually slow for a meteor. David?
Yeah, it's all perspective. Imagine being one of those drivers today who we heard in that piece. Rhiannon, thank you.
Rhiannon, thank you. All right, our final story. Let's just jump right into it. Here we go. The Cesar Chavez Foundation and the United Farmer Workers issued a statement detailing reports of abuse by Cesar Chavez. Ladies and gentlemen, the labor movement is facing a profound and painful reckoning. This week, as the legacy of Cesar Chavez is fundamentally reevaluated. On Tuesday, the United Farm Workers, the UFW, and the Cesar Chavez Foundation released twin statements acknowledging, quote, shocking and indefensible allegations that the civil rights icon engaged in the sexual abuse of young women and minors. During his time at the union's president, the organizations described the reports as crushing and incompatible with our values, marking a stunning shift for the institutions that have spent decades guarding the late leader's reputation. The fallout intensified on Wednesday when the New York Times investigation detailed specific accounts of abuse, detailing including statements from Chavez's longtime partner and co-founder Dolores Huerta, now 95 years old. Huerta revealed that she had kept these secrets for 60 years out of fear that the truth would destroy the farm worker movement. She described 2 separate incidents in the 1960s where she was pressured and forced into sexual encounters that led to pregnancies, which she kept hidden for decades. Other survivors, including the daughters of union organizers, have come forward alleging that they were groomed and abused as young girls in the 1970s. Oh my goodness. The impact of these revelations has had an immediate widespread boom across the country, much like that one, the meteorite that we covered in Ohio and Kentucky. The UFW and its foundation have canceled upcoming Cesar Chavez Day celebrations that were scheduled for March 31st. In California and Arizona, lawmakers are already debating whether they should rename state holidays, streets, and public parks that bear his name, while leaders like Huerta emphasize that the movement of farm worker rights is bigger than any one man, and the revelations have left the Latino community and labor activists grappling with how to reconcile a history of monumental social achievement with these newly surfaced accounts of personal trauma, man. Unfortunate. If you idolize him, this is a tough day for you, but I don't know many people who idolized Mr. Chavez.
Deeply
troubling allegations tonight against a California legend. The Cesar
California
Chavez Foundation
legend.
and the United Farm Workers Union both put out statements today detailing reports of abuse by Cesar Chavez.
That's right. Both organizations say they have no details but felt the need to take action on the information they have been given, including canceling events to honor the former...
You gonna cancel him? You can't cancel him. He's dead. You gonna cancel? You gonna cancel the Mongols?
NBC Bay Area's Robert Honda is joining us live from San Jose, where one of those events was supposed to take place. Robert.
I'm against the canceling of Cesar Chavez.
Well, that's right. CET, Center for Employment Training here in San Jose, it usually hosts the big commemorative breakfast on Cesar Chavez Day. But just about 2 hours ago, CET announced it is canceling that event in light of these allegations. Joel Herrera came to the historic Chavez house in East San Jose today, where famed labor leader Cesar Chavez once lived and launched the workers' movement. Today, it's a designated landmark. Herrera says he comes with a heavy heart after hearing about allegations of abuse by Chavez, allegations put out in statements by the Cesar Chavez Foundation and the United Farm Workers Union, which Chavez helped form.
Right away, just started feeling very emotional.
The foundation, in a statement, said the Cesar Chavez Foundation has become aware of disturbing allegations that Cesar Chavez engaged in inappropriate sexual behavior with women and minors during his time.
My guy died back in 1993. He was only 66 years old, ladies and gentlemen. He's a civil rights icon. He co-founded the National Farm Workers Association. And I think that we should just leave him alone. I mean, so what? He abused young women and girls, like Jimmy Savile did that, and Jeremy Savile. Is it Jimmy Savile or Jeremy? Jimmy Savile. There we go. Perfect. Yes, the one guy from Britain, the one who. Well, actually, no, that was children. He did that to children. Never mind.
As president of the
Actually,
United
wait, that
Farm
is the
Workers
same.
of America, we are deeply shocked and saddened by what we are hearing. In a separate statement, the UFW also acknowledged it had heard deeply troubling allegations, including, quote, allegations involving abuse of young women and minors, going on to say allegations that very young women or girls may have been victimized are crushing. However, both groups also noted they did not have any direct or first-hand knowledge of the allegations. Still, the statements hit Herrera hard.
So I want to practice compassion.
Want to practice compassion. All involved.
Including those that are making the allegations,
You know.
And for Cesar himself and his family.
Another prominent Latino community group echoed the sentiments of the foundation, the UFW, and Herrera, saying its focus is on the possible victims.
It is incredibly important that we not idolize one person, and that we work towards finding out the truth about these cases and actually doing something about that, I think, is incredibly important.
Today, the Center for Employment Training canceled its annual Cesar Chavez breakfast, and other events are likely to follow suit. At San Jose State University, the Cesar E. Chavez Center had numerous events planned for the celebration, and a short while ago told NBC Bay Area it is reevaluating those events.
Why? He did nothing wrong. Gavin Newsom, he's even boasting about how Cesar Chavez, he had tributes in his home to Cesar Chavez.
Absorbing. We heard some rumors as early as yesterday, a few days ago. Someone said something may be coming out, an investigation as it relates to this. And, it's March 30th, I think, at the end of the month. Cesar Chavez Day, and every year the governor of California proclaims Cesar Chavez Day. It's in statute. And how many days I've marched, how many times I've been with students, talking about the movement, and how many photographs I have in my house of Bobby Kennedy and Cesar Chavez. I woke up this morning.
Not RFK Jr. RFK Jr.'s father, Bobby Kennedy.
Right there. And so it's been hard to absorb this. Jen and I are very close with Dolores. So many of us are, but very close. Have been for decades and decades. And
all the people standing behind him are like, "Why are you talking about this?"
None of us knew. And
none of us
we
knew.
Were sharing all this, and so I think all of us are processing it, and just these kids have to process it now.
These kids have to process it now. Yes, they do, Governor Gavin Newsom. I love you so much, Governor. You will be a great 2028 candidate. I cannot wait for your candidacy. You are the Democrats' best chance at winning anything that year. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you listening to this episode. We have one more this week, Friday. I'm so glad that you were here to listen to these stories. I had a great time putting them together. I hope you had an even better time listening to them. I hope that you have a wonderful whatever it is, you know what I mean? I hope you have whatever fills your Thursday. I hope you have a great time doing whatever it is you do. I hope that you live truthfully. I hope that you enjoy life, whatever it has to offer you. And that's that, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a great episode of Your Brain on Air. I've been your host, Ollie Vogt Larson. Thank you so very much for listening. Subscribe if you want more. Ring the bell for notifications. Like if you liked it. And that's all for me. I'll see you in the next broadcast, the last one for the week. In the meantime, bye-bye.